I like to play a game, a fragrance game. Hey friends, how's it going? Ash here with Gents Scents. Hope you're doing well. Like I said, a little bit of a game here today. Feel free to play along. So here's what I did. Before I got in front of the camera here, I went through Fragrantica. I chose 15 different huge fragrance brands, both niche and designer. And I guessed which fragrance I thought was going to be the highest rated fragrance from each brand according to Fragrantica users, which is something I don't super often look at because it's really hard to trust Fragrantica ratings, but here we are. So feel free to play along as we go, make your guess and check and see if you're the winner. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go through each house. I'm gonna tell you guys what I chose. I'm gonna tell you what rating that fragrance has and whether or not it is indeed the highest rated from the house. So let's jump into it. And guys, I'll have each one of these linked in the description below. And also there were a couple rules and they're really simple. If the fragrance is very hard to find and discontinued, then I can't count that as being one of the ones that's the highest rated, because these have to be fragrances that you can actually find. And then also, these are the men's fragrances. So if we're talking about a designer house, we're just looking at the ratings for the men's scents. If it's a niche house and it's a unisex fragrance, but mainly guys wear it, that counts for this video. So those are the rules. Super simple. And guys, I'm gonna drop that bomb of codes directly on top of your head here. Gents10 is the code for both twistedlily.com and luckyscent.com. It'll get you 10% off the entire website. So check those out for your niche fragrances and save yourself 10%. And then JomoShop.com, of course, the code is GENTS8, $8 off any order over 110. Okay, here we go. The first house, Yves Saint Laurent. Now, I'll explain to you guys kind of how I was thinking about each one of these houses as we go along. So Yves Saint Laurent has a lot of classic fragrances, stuff like Kouros or Opium, for example, that you can still obviously find really easily. But I know that those are a little bit more divisive for some people, so I wouldn't expect those to win. So I went with the hype beast to end all hype beasts for Yves Saint Laurent, La Nuit de l'Homme. That was my guess. I feel like that one is so universally loved and talked about and heralded, and it has a score of 4.44 as of this video out of 5. So I was feeling really good there. I was like, we're gonna start this off with the W. There are some fragrances that were pretty close to that, like YSL L'Homme Ultime, a lot of fragrances in that like 4.3 range from the house. And yet, the highest rated fragrance for Yves Saint Laurent men's fragrances absolutely crushed La Nuit de l'Homme. It was La Nuit de l'Homme BLEU Électrique, 4.57 out of 5. That fragrance is the highest rated fragrance of anyone that we'll talk about today. And I really, really like La Nuit de l'Homme BLEU Électrique. Now, here's the catch. In the US, you can't really find BLEU Électrique. I know I've had people from other countries say, hey, we can find it here, but where I'm at, you can't. So you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go ahead and call that a win for myself, because the fragrance that falls in behind that is La Nuit de l'Homme. So this is like a halfway win, but I'm taking it. Next up, Christian Dior. I went Dior Homme Intense. Again, this is just one of those deals where I'm kind of like playing to the crowd, right? So Fragrantica users are typically people that are really hardcore into fragrances, the people that are voting on them there. What do people love about Dior's more mainline fragrances in the fragrance community? The Iris and Dior Homme, and which one do they hold up the most? Dior Homme Intense. So that's what I was going for. 4.5 out of 5. So of course, when I saw that, I was feeling good. And guess what? The top rated Dior is Dior Homme Intense with the 4.5. Now, Dior Homme Parfum was super close at 4.49. So literally just the tiniest amount behind Dior Homme Intense, but a win is a win. Up next, I took a look at PACO Rabanne. And with PACO Rabanne, my guess was 1 million lucky. So here's my thought process there. Again, we're playing to the crowd a little bit. The Fragrantica crowd. 1 million lucky kind of does a little bit for everybody. So it has that compliment factor, that versatility, but it's a little bit unique as well. So I figured it had a pretty good score. Also, I know that fragrances in the Invictus line don't catch as much love from the Fragrantica world. Stuff like Phantom obviously isn't going to. pure excess, black excess, they're not gonna really be super high. So 1 Million Lucky got a 4.26 out of 5, and that is not the winner. Nah, it was Ultra Red. Ultra Red has a 4.37 out of 5. Now, Ultra Red, for the longest time, you couldn't find. It was at eBay for like $200 plus, $250. Discontinued, right? And yet they found just the mother load of Ultra Red, apparently, because it's still available at discounters, has been for a while, in like the $35 range. So I lost this one pretty comfortably. Awesome sweet orange fragrance though. Love Ultra Red. Really good stuff. Probably your best alternative to something like Ultra Zest from Mugler for an affordable price nowadays. Then Creed, the House of Creed up next. Now, here was my thought process with Creed. I thought AVENTUS, Green Irish Tweed, you know, the really big ones from the house. I love those, especially Green Irish Tweed, but they are so big and so ubiquitous. I thought maybe people went on there and just downvoted them just to do it, right? So I went with Royal Oud, thought it was a smart choice because it's a fragrance that everybody really likes, but it doesn't have that same push behind it as AVENTUS or Green Irish Tweed or Silver Mountain Water or one of those. So Royal Oud has a 4.38 as of this video. I was feeling good and I lost because AVENTUS has a 4.39. I overthought it. I thought AVENTUS would have, you know, too many haters on there that would drag the score down, but apparently not. 4.39, AVENTUS, the highest rated men's Creed. Montblanc is up next, and this one I didn't feel comfortable a bit. I really just had no idea. I felt like it could go a bunch of different ways because Legend, you know, a lot of people have worn that as a cheap alternative to Fierce. Legend Eau de Parfum, same thing. Legend Spirit, people wear as a cheap alternative to Invictus Aqua. Starwalker has a great little niche of people that love it. Of course, Explorer, being like AVENTUS. You got a lot of different fragrances that could potentially be the highest rated. So ultimately I went with Explorer just because that's the one that's been talked about the most. So I figured it had the most exposure and the highest likelihood, using that line of thinking, of having the highest score, at a 4.21 out of 5. And Fragrantica has Explorer as the highest rated. So I got that one right. Actually, some of those scored lower than I anticipated they would. Up next, Parfums de Marly. Now, Parfums de Marly has a ton of fragrances that have above a 4 rating on Fragrantica, really high. A lot of people loving themselves some Parfums de Marly. I went with LAYTON because I figured that was probably the safest bet. There are a lot of ones that could be the highest rated, but I thought LAYTON is the one that people love to reach for compliments and all that stuff. It's basically like the AVENTUS of Parfums de Marly, like it's their flagship fragrance for a lot of people. LAYTON had a 4.45, so when I saw that, I was feeling pretty good. I mean, that is a high score, and it is not the highest rated. Nah, that was Herod at 4.47. Didn't see that coming. Now, Herod is a darn good tobacco fragrance. Very nice smelling, very easy to wear, but I expected LAYTON to win. So yeah, took an L there, but it was close. After that, I took a look at Prada. Now, Prada's tricky because if Prada L'Homme Intense were still on the market, that's the one I would have chosen, but it's not. And so it was really down to Prada L'Homme, one of the Luna Rosas, or maybe one of the amber fragrances. Now I was thinking to myself, the amber fragrances, they're not going to be in it. So it came down to pretty much Prada L'Homme, Luna Rosa Carbon, or Luna Rosa Black. That's what I was thinking. I went Prada L'Homme because of that versatility and being, you know, hyped as one of the best office fragrances in the designer realm. And I had a really good score, 4.38 out of 5, really high, but not high enough. The winner was Prada Amber Intense, 4.4. Yep, so close. Prada Amber Intense, I didn't even think about as possibly being one of the best or the best. And that's my fault. When you're talking Prada and the fragrances that people nowadays are buying and wearing and talking about, you know, that one doesn't pop in your mind, but you can still find it. So it's not like it's, you know, some discontinued fragrance that's impossible to locate. It's at a bunch of different stores. So I lost that one, but it was close again. And Prada L'Homme, I still feel like was the smart choice, even though it was wrong. Then we've got AZZARO. Now with AZZARO, I was pretty certain I had a good idea of what it would be. I went with the Most Wanted Parfum because I know that since that has come out, It's done pretty well as far as sales at retail stores. It's gotten really good feedback. It's a big compliment puller, and it seems like most people that get that really enjoy it. So I was pretty comfortable that that would be the one. So that's what I went with. Also, when you think about their lines, you know, it's really the AZZARO Pour Homme line, which doesn't have a huge amount of stuff to choose from. The Chrome line, which oftentimes kind of gets dragged down, and then the Wanted line. So this one had a 4.47 out of 5, a really high ranking, and it was in fact the number one. The Most Wanted Parfum does the modern sort of sweet gourmand type of fragrance really well. You know, the stuff that's very popular right now, toffee, caramel, chestnut, hazelnut, that stuff. After that, I took a look at AMOUAGE, and I really didn't know what to go with here. Too many options. So there's Interlude Black Iris, there's Memoir, there's Overture, there's Reflection, all these fragrances that are fantastic. I went with Jubilation 25. So that had a 4.42 out of 5. I was feeling pretty good about that. I mean, Jubilation 25, when I first started getting into AMOUAGE, was like the fragrance that you had to have. It was the pinnacle of AMOUAGE. That's how it was held up for a long time. So I thought after looking at that score, I had a pretty good chance, but I lost. It was actually Reflection 45 that had the highest rating. Yeah, I actually didn't really think about that as being a possibility, but it was. Has a 4.45. Now, to be fair, obviously nowhere near as many people have smelled that one or voted on that one. So it's entirely possible that as time goes, more people vote on it and it drops down and Jubilation 25 comes up. But there was also, I think, Overture Man in between those. So Jubilation 25 was down just a little bit. After that, Versace. And Versace is another one that I didn't really know what to go for. So there's obviously the EROS line, which is really popular, but I was wondering if maybe the EROS line was dragged down a little bit by some people that don't like that type of scent, you know, that sweet, attention-grabbing, powerful type of fragrance. Versace Pour Homme, Versace Mano Fresh. Fresh fragrances a lot of times don't perform as well, at least on Fragrantica, as some of the richer ones. That was my thinking anyway. So I went with Versace Oud Noir, which has a 4.25. It's a good rating, real nice, but it was not the winner. The winner was Eros Eau de Parfum, had a 4.31 out of 5. Can't really argue that. I mean, Eros Eau de Parfum, I've said a few times, is like the Goldilocks fragrance in the Eros line. Takes pieces from the Eau de Toilette and the Parfum, basically the part that they do best, and then combines it. So that was the winner. Then I wanted to take a look at MANCERA, who has a ton of fragrances, lots of releases. I went with Intense CEDRAT Boisé. My train of thought there is that CEDRAT Boisé is one of the highest rated from the house. And when the Intense version came out, a lot of people liked that even more than the original. So I thought, you know, with that being out more recently, and with the amount of love that it seemed to get, that would be a safe choice. So I had a 4.39 out of 5, and it was the number one. With some of these houses, you get a pretty good idea of like what the Fragrantica crowd is gonna vote for, like how they're gonna vote for it, and you can get pretty close to nailing the top or like right under the top every time. And since I looked at MANCERA, I figured let's look at MONTALE. Let's see how that is. Now, I don't know MONTALE fragrances as well as MANCERA. I own a decent amount of Montales, actually, probably like 2 dozen, but that doesn't even scratch the surface of how many they have. I mean, there's just tons of Montale Ouds out there. It's like Oud City nonstop. So my guess was Honey Aoud, mainly because it's my favorite one, but it didn't have an awesome score. It was 4.15, which isn't bad, but not amazing. And it was not the winner, but it was actually pretty close to the top. A lot of Montale fragrances don't get rated all that highly. So the highest rated on Fragrantica was Oud Tobacco at 4.28. Now, to be fair, there was Rendezvous à Milan that had like a 4.6. Which you would think, whoa, that's the best score of everything here. But it had 10 votes. Can't really count that. It skewed really heavily because nobody has actually really smelled it yet. So Oud Tobacco 4.28. I do have that one. It is nice, but I like Honey Oud more myself. After that, Dolce&Gabbana. Now, Dolce&Gabbana, I felt pretty comfortable about. I chose the one Eau de Parfum as a 4.5 out of 5. So really, really, really good, toward the top of anything we've talked about. One of my favorite designer fragrances in terms of how it smells, but it was not the winner. Nah, it was the one Luminous Night. That of 4.53. You could maybe say that it should be the one Eau de Parfum because the one Luminous Night is really hard to find, but it has popped up at discounters once again here lately. So if you can find it at discounters, I think you gotta count that because you can still find it pretty easy, even though the stuff does sell out and come back and sell out and come back. But yeah, the one Luminous Night is the winner of 4.53. After that, I took a look at Initio Parfums because I already looked at Parfums de Marly. My guess was Oud for Greatness. That one had a 4.34 out of 5. Oud for Greatness, of course, the most hyped fragrance from the house, the one that everybody seems to talk about. There are so many different clones of that fragrance. So when you see, you know, 4, 5, 6 clones from different houses popping out, you know that you made it, right? So Oud for Greatness was my choice, and it was not number 1. Atomic Friggin' Rose was number 1. What? With a 4.36. Now, Atomic Rose doesn't smell bad. I had the fragrance, but I gave it away because I was never gonna wear it. I think overall Oud for Greatness is more interesting to me, but I know people will obviously disagree with that because Atomic Rose won. So last house, Giorgio Armani. For Armani, I had to go with an Acqua di Gio, and I went with Profumo. Now, Profondo is my favorite, but I know that over the years, Profumo has been the favorite of more people than Profondo, at least going off of comments and stuff. That one had a 4.36. So pretty high, but I didn't really feel comfortable with that. Thought it would be maybe higher. The winner was actually an Emporio Armani fragrance. It was Stronger With You Leather with a 4.55. That is crazy high. It's hard to find because it's an exclusive fragrance, kind of like Luminous Night. So if you wanted to remove that one because of that, it would be Stronger With You absolutely, which has a 4.38. Just barely ahead of the Acqua di Gio. So underneath the Armani umbrella, the top rated 2 fragrances for men currently are not code fragrances, and they're not Acqua di Gio fragrances. They're both Stronger With You. Yeah, crazy. So there you have it. That's how Fragrantica voted. That's how I voted for 15 different houses. Let me know in the comments below if you were playing along, thinking in your head which one you would choose from each house as the likely winner. Let me know if you did good, you did bad, somewhere in the middle. I think overall I did pretty good. I nailed a lot of them. Other ones I was close. So if I didn't get the top one, I was like 1 or 2 away. I'll take that. All right, guys, I'm gonna take off. Thank you for hanging with me here today. Thanks for your support. Thank you to Fragrantica for unintentionally helping me out on this video. And I'll see you guys again tomorrow with another fragrance video. See you later.